Lesson 1-6, Rearranging Formulas. As you can see here, we're going to be using some common formulas that you've used not only in math, but maybe in your science classes. And we're just going to rearrange them, which just means a fancy way of saying we're solving for a specific variable in your formula. So some equations have more than one variable. At times you will need to solve these equations for one of the variables. It all depends on what information you're given in your word problem. So a formula is an equation that expresses a relationship between certain quantities. A formula or equation that involves more than one variable is called a literal equation. So a common formula would be area of a rectangle. Area equals length times width. If I want to say solve for W, I would just divide by L on both sides, and the width would equal the area divided by the length. I just rearranged this formula, or I solve for a specific variable in my formula. That is all what we're doing in this first part of our lesson. So here it says solve for a specific variable. Here they're telling us solve for A. That means I just need to get everything away from A. So 5A minus 2B equals 15. Now I do not need to know what numbers A and B are. I just need to get A by itself. So to get A by itself, I'm going to add 2B to both sides. And now I'm left with 5A on this side. And over on the right-hand side, I cannot add 15 and 2B together because they're not the same terms. They're not like terms. So I have to keep them separate as 15 plus 2B. And a common mistake students make is they try to add them together and get 17B. So do not do that. You can only combine like terms. Now my last step is to get A by itself. The opposite of multiply by 5 is divide by 5. So I'm going to divide everything by 5. Now A is by itself, and over here, could I leave my answer as written there? You could, but that wouldn't be the most simplified form of writing my answer. I would rewrite this as 15 divided by 5 plus 2B divided by 5. And this will give me an answer of A equaling 15 divided by 5 is 3 plus 2B divided by 3, or divided by 5. This is what A actually equals. So I just rearrange and solve for a specific variable in the equation I was given. Next, solve 12x plus 4y equals 28 for y. So I need to get y by itself. So I'm going to take the 12x plus 4y equaling 28. Get y by itself. So I need to get everything away from 4y first. So I'm going to subtract 12x. And I'm left with 4y equaling 28 minus 12x. Again, I cannot combine the 28 and the 12 because one has an x and the other one doesn't. Last step, divide by 4. So I'm going to divide both parts by 4, and I'm left with y equals 28 divided by 4 is 7. 12x divided by 4 is 3x. So which one has 7 minus 3x? That's actually C. Now they just rearranged it as y equals, and they kept the sign the same, so negative 3x. And this is a positive 7. So just be aware of that. They mean the same thing. It's just normally you would put your variables first. Next, solve 3x minus 7y equals 26 for x. So I need to get x by itself. So I'm going to add 7y to both sides, and I get 3x equaling, I'm going to put 7y first here, plus 26. Divide everything by 3, and I'm left with x equaling 7/3 y plus 26/3. Now I would not put those as decimals And the reason why I wouldn't put them as decimals is because that would give you a repeating decimal. If you round it, that would change the whole solution. Now for this one, since I can't simplify anything there, I could have just left it as 7y plus 26 all over 3. That is another way of doing it. Next, solve for p. Now you have more than one variable involved as well, and you have variables on both sides. So here we need to solve for p. So I'm going to rewrite this, 4p minus 7r equaling pq plus 16. Anything with a p needs to be on one side. So I'm going to subtract pq, and now I'm left with 4p minus pq minus 7r equaling 16. To get the p's by itself, I'm going to factor out a p. So if I factor out a p, I'm left with 4 minus q equaling, actually, I'm going to add 7r to both sides. So then that's going to equal 16 minus 7r, or plus 7r. Now that I've factored the p out, I can get p by itself by dividing everything by 4 minus q. So I'm left with my answer of being p equals, in the numerator I have 16 plus 7r divided by 4 minus q. I cannot simplify that any further, so that would be my final answer. Next, 2v equals w plus v divided by t for v. So I need to get v by itself. So now I have 2v equals w plus v divided by t. Now I don't want fractions involved here. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply by t on both sides. T's divide out here, and I'm left with 2tv equaling w plus v. I need all the v's to one side, so I'm going to subtract v, and I'm left with 2t v minus v equaling w. To get my v's, I need to factor out, and I'm going to 2t minus 1. Because if I multiply v times 2t, I get 2tv, and v times 1 is minus v equals w. My final step to get v by itself, I just divide everything by 2t minus 1. I'm left with v equaling w over 2t minus 1. Next, solve for a. I need to get a's to one side. So I have 5a plus 3c equaling ab plus bc. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to subtract ab on both sides and then add c to both sides. And I'm left with 5a minus ab equaling bc plus 3c. Here I can factor out an a because they have that in common. That leaves me with 5 minus b equaling bc plus 3c. To get a by itself, I divide everything by 5 minus b. I'm left with a equaling bc plus 3c all over 5 minus b. Next example 3, solve linear equations for a given variable. So now we're going to get a formula and we're going to solve for a specific variable in the equation. Says the area of a trapezoid is a equals h times base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2. A represents the area, h represents the height, b1 represents the length of one base, b2 represents the length of the other base. So part A, we're going to solve the formula for h. Then part B, we're going to find the height of the trapezoid with the area of 70 square feet and bases that are 22 feet and 18 feet. So the first thing, we need to get h by itself. So I'm going to rewrite this up here. I have a equals h times b1 plus b subscript 2 all over 2. I need to get rid of my fractions, so I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. And I'm now left with 2a equaling h times base 1 plus base 2. Get h by itself, I'm just dividing everything by base 1 plus base 2. So h is going to equal 2a all over base subscript 1 plus base subscript 2. Once I have that, now all I have to do is substitute the numbers in for the variables to solve for h. So to do that, I need to find the height with the area of 70. So I have 2 times 70 all over base 1 is 22 plus 18. So up here I have 140 all over 40. Divide by 10, I'm left with 14 over 4. Divide this in half, I get 7 halves, which would give us 3.5. So I would have the height of that would be 3.5. Next, a mason jar company wants to increase the volume of its cylindrical bars by 6 cubic inches. The company's designer wants a formula that states the height h of a car given its volume v and radius r. The volume of a cylindrical bar is modeled by the equation v equals pi times radius squared times the height. So part A says, what formula should we use to find the height? So if I go back here, I have v equals pi r squared times the height. So we need to solve for h. So to get h by itself, I'm just going to divide by pi r squared. And I would have the height equaling volume divided by pi r squared. Okay, which one has that? The one that has h equals v divided by pi r squared would be letter C. Now that we know what formula to use, we are now going to use that to solve this problem. So if we have h equals volume divided by pi r squared, says if the radius of the jar is 1.5 inches. So I have pi times the radius 1.5 squared. And the original volume is 30 cubic inches. So I'm going to put 30, original 30 there. What height should the company make its new jar to increase the volume by 6 cubic inches, round to the nearest 100th of an inch? Now, one thing to keep in mind is you want to increase the volume by 6. If the old volume was 30, we need to make this as 36. So now, if I just put this in my calculator exactly the way it is, let me grab my calculator out. And I'm just going to type in 36 divided by, I'm going to use parentheses here, second caret symbol, so I'm going to put pi in there, times 1.5 squared and parentheses, and we get 5.0929. So it says round to the nearest hundredths, 2 decimal places, that would be 5.09, which will give us answer B. Now, if you were to put that same thing in there, but you use 30, your answer would have been 4.24, which would not be the correct answer here. So just pay close attention to what they're asking you to use for your value. Next, the formula for the surface area of a regular pyramid is S equaling half times PL plus B, where S represents the surface area, P represents the perimeter of the base, L represents the slant height, and B represents the area of the base of the pyramid. Solve the formula for P, and then we're going to use that to answer part B. So the first thing we need to solve for P. So let me write this down. So S equals 1/2. And I'm going to rewrite this as PL over 2 plus B. For solving for P, I'm going to get rid of this B by subtracting B. So now I have S minus B equaling PL divided by 2. Multiply this by 2. So now I have 2 times the slant height minus the base equaling PL. Divide by L. This is what I would have as my formula. Now we're going to use that to find the perimeter. So we need to find the perimeter. Perimeter of the base of a rectangular pyramid with a surface area of 137 and a slant height of 11 and the base with an area of 24.8. So on my calculator, we're going to type in 2 times, let me put everything in parentheses. So let's do 2 times, and then parentheses 137 minus 24.8, end parentheses, and all of that I'm going to divide by 11. I'm now left with 20.4 centimeters. So our answer for this one would be 20.4 centimeters. Next one, example 4, using literal equations. The total amount of money Kishi spends on pizza for a party is T equals 13.449 C plus 15.49 P. T represents the total amount of money she spends. C represents the number of cheese pizzas she buys, and P represents the number of pepperoni pizzas she buys. You can see in the diagram, each pepperoni pizza is 15.49 and each cheese pizza is 13.49. What we are going to do, it says part A, if Kishi has $85 to spend on pizza, describe the constraints on T equaling 13.49 C plus 15.49 P. So what do they mean by constraints? Constraints would be talking about limitations. So like, can you buy part of a pizza? Or do you have to buy the whole pizza? That would be what they're considering as a constraint. Or if you only have $85 to spend, you can't spend $85.01. It has to be less than $85 spent. So that is a constraint that you would have. So the constraints, you have only $85 to spend, and you have to buy a whole pizza. You can't just buy part of it. The minimum that you can buy, minimum number of pizzas is 0. Okay. So part B, let's solve for this. So for T, we know the total is 85. So I'm going to put 85 in for T, equaling 13.49 C plus 15.49 P. I need to get C by itself, so I'm going to subtract 15.49 P on both sides. So right now, this is what I have. I have 85 minus 15.49 P equaling 13.49 C. Now I just divide by 13.49, and that will give us our C. Now it says, if she has $85 to spend on pizzas and she needs to buy 3 pepperoni pizzas, find the minimum number of cheese pizzas she can buy. So if P is for pepperoni and she needs to buy 3 pepperoni, I'm going to put 3 in for P. And that's going to give us the number of cheese pizzas that she could purchase. Now if I take 85 minus 15.49 times 3, so make sure if you're doing it on your calculator, you just put it in exactly the way it's written there. Then divide that by 13.49, and you get roughly 2.86. Now you can't buy part of a pizza. So if you buy 3 pepperoni, the maximum cheese pizzas can be only 2 cheese. You don't have enough for 3 because you only have part of a third one. So it has to be a whole. So the answer for this would be 2 cheese. Next one. Ella makes a video game that becomes very popular. She creates the formula P equals 40C minus 300 to model her profit P, given the number of copies sold C. Taking into account $300 fee that she has paid a retailer to sell her game. Which equation would model how many copies C must be sold to yield a specific amount of profits? So if the formula is there, we need to solve for C. So if we're solving for C, we have P equaling 40C minus 300. I'm going to add 300 both sides. And now I'm left with P plus 300 equaling 40C. Divide by 40. C would equal P plus 300 divided by 40, which would be letter D. Going back to that one, we just had to find out the equation. We didn't actually have to solve for that. Next one, Carter is creating t-shirts for a pep rally. The short sleeve style sells for $14.95. The long sleeve shirts are $19.95. The total amount of money Carter collected from t-shirt sales is T equaling 14.95x plus 19.95y. T represents the total amount of money Carter collected. X represents the total number of short sleeve t-shirts, and Y represents the total number of long sleeve t-shirts. If the total amount of money Carter collected was $698, find the maximum number of short sleeve shirts Carter could have sold. So we're going to put the number in for, actually we're going to solve for short sleeve, and short sleeve was letter X. We're going to solve the formula for X. So we're going to take our formula and solve for X. So right now we have T equaling 14.95x plus 19.95y. We're going to subtract 19.95y. And I'm left with T minus 19.95y equaling 14.95x. That means our x is going to be T minus 19.95y divided by 14.95. That's the formula I'm going to use for part A to find out how much short sleeve they could have. So if it's 698, so I have 698 minus 19.95y divided by 14.95. equals x. Okay, so to find the maximum, that means just say you're not going to buy any long sleeve. So that means your y is 0. So if I have 698 minus 19.95 times 0, divide that by 14.95, that will give us the number of short sleeve. If I put that in my calculator, I get roughly 46.68. Now I can't buy part of a t-shirt, so the most I could get would be 46 shirts. On this last one here, solve P equals 14.95x plus 19.95y for y. So instead of solving for x, I'm just solving for y, which would be the same formula as I have up here. The only difference is I'm just going to switch your variables and your numbers around. So really I'm subtracting 14.95x. So now I have t minus 14.95x. And then I'm going to divide that by 19.95. And that's what y equals. Here it says, so this is just giving me more space of what I had before. Since I've already done that one, we're just going to move on to our next part. When using formulas, you may want to use dimensional analysis. Dimensional analysis or unit analysis is the process of performing operations with units. As you plan your solution method, think about these things. So think about what units you were given, what units you need for the solution, and the steps you'll need to take to convert your units from what you are given to what you will need for the solution. So in other words, you just need to know your unit conversions. So first one says a recipe calls for 20 fluid ounces of milk. If Nita buys a half gallon of milk, how many batches of that recipe can she make? So a hint, 8 fluid ounces equals 1 cup. So I need to look at the recipe, and the recipe calls for 20 fluid ounces. So I need to know 20 fluid ounces of milk, but you have a half gallon. So I need to convert that half gallon of milk to cups. So then I can convert that cup to 8 fluid ounces. So I'm given 20 fluid ounces of milk, and I know that 1 cup is the same as 8 fluid ounces. Actually, yeah, that's what I need. I have 1/2 gallon of milk. So I'm going to do 0.5 gallon. So I need to think of how many, let's just do how many quarts in a gallon. If there are 4 quarts in a gallon, that means there are 2 quarts in a half gallon. But since I have a label of 1 gallon, I need to get rid of the gallon. So I'm going to use 4 quarts is the same as 1 gallon, because now the gallon labels divide out, and I'm left with quarts. So half of 4 is 2 quarts, so I have 2 quarts. Now from here, I need to get to fluid ounces as my final answer. So I need to go from quarts, and let's think quarts, I know that there are 2 pints in a quart. So 2 pints in a quart, so 2 pints in 1 quart. That means the quart labels divide out, and now I'm left with 2 pints. And I know that there are 2 cups in 1 pint. So 1 pint is the same as 2 cups. Now my pints label divides out. And now I know right here, 8 fluid ounces is 1 cup. So 1 cup is the same as 8 fluid ounces. And the cup labels divide out. And now I can just multiply everything across. So I have 0.5 times 4 times 2 times 2 times 8. Half of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 8 times 8 is 64 fluid ounces. How many batches, right? That would be how many gallons or how many fluid ounces of milk we have. It says how many batches of that recipe can she make. So to do this, if one batch gives you 20 fluid ounces, I have this amount right now. So I'm going to put that over 1. And I know that one batch is the same as 20 fluid ounces. Then I just take my 64 and I divide that by 20, and then we get 3.2, which will give us about 3 batches. Next, the fisheye lens for a camera has a minimum focus range of 13.5 centimeters. If 1 centimeter is about 0.39 inches, what is the minimum focus range of the lens to the nearest thousandth of a foot? So this is what I'm given, 13.5 centimeters. And we know that 1 centimeter is the same as about 0.39 inches. And I know that there's 12 inches in 1 foot. So I need to convert centimeters to feet. So I know that 0.39 inches is the same as 1 centimeter. So centimeters labels divide out. And I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. So my inches labels divide out. And I have everything set up. The label I want is always on top at the end. So now I just take 13.5 times 0.39 times 1. And this gives us 5.265 feet all over 12. So I'm going to take that answer, divide by 12. And I'm left with, here's thousandth would be 3 decimal places. So they give us an answer of 0.43875. 3 decimal places is 8. 7 tells you to round that 8 to 0.439 feet. Example 6, use dimensional analysis to convert rates. It says in a novel, the main character, Eiko, can run long distances at 16.5 Kanajuku per second. Carla knows that the Olympic record for running a marathon distance of 26.2 miles is about 126.5 minutes. She wonders if Eiko could beat the record. If 1 Kanajaku equals 10 over 33 meters, find how far Eiko could run in miles in that amount of time. Hint 1 mile is 1,609.344 meters. So we're going to start off with 16.5 Kanajuku per second. So I'm going to use K in 1 second. Let's just use CAN. And we need to convert that. We know that there are 1 Kanajuku for 10 over 33 meters. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to have 10 over 33 meters over 110 because the labels divide out. Now I can convert meters to miles, and we're given that conversion. So we have 1 mile, and again, I want mine in miles on top. This is 1,609.344 meters. Labels divide out. And then we have to go, so that's in seconds, miles per second. And then we're going to actually have to convert that to minutes as well. So let's do that right away. So we got 60 seconds in 1 minute. And so now our second labels divide out. And let's get our calculator out. Okay, so we got 16.5 times 10 divided by 33. That gives us 5. Then we're going to divide that by 1,609.344 equals, and then I'm going to multiply that by 60. And we get a pretty long decimal here. But then we have to multiply that by 126.5. So multiply that by 126.5. And we get an answer of roughly 23.6 miles. I went back to my calculator. You can see one decimal place would be 23.6. So Aiko would approximately run approximately 23.6 miles in the time it took the Olympic runner to complete 26.2 miles. So Aiko would not beat the Olympic marathon record time. Next, on average, a dairy cow produces 832 ounces of milk a day. About how many gallons of milk does a dairy cow produce each year? So hint, 1 cup equals 8 ounces, 4 quarts equal 4, or 1 quart equals 4 cups, and 1 gallon equals 4 quarts. So we have 832 ounces. Per day. We want to know how many gallons of gas would they produce in 1 year. So I need to convert that to gallons. So we have 8 ounces in a cup. So 8 ounces, 1 cup. Then we need to cut to quarts. So we have 1 quart, 4 cups. Then the quarts to gallons. We have 1 gallon, 4 quarts. The quart labels divide out, the cup labels divide out, the ounces go out. Then we got to convert. So this is 1 day. We need it per year. So we have 365 days in 1 year. So in our calculator, let's do 832 times 365 divided by 8 divided by 4 divided by 4, and you should get 2,372.5 gallons per year, which would be letter B. And our last question. Show how to find the number of inches per second in 4 miles per hour. So I have 4 miles in 1 hour. I need to find out how many inches there are per second. So let's do the time. So I know in 1 hour, that's 60 seconds, or 60 minutes. And that 1 minute is 60 seconds. So minutes, so now I'm at miles per second. I need to be in inches. So I know there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile, and that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. Feet labels divide out here. So to find the number of inches per second in 4 miles per hour, I would just have 4 times 12 times 5,280, which would give us 253,440. Divide that by 3,600. That would give us roughly 70.4 inches per second. So that is our lesson on rearranging formulas.